Hey everybody, this is Dr. Dan, and I am your professor for American history. And this class is the University of Toledo History 2010 is the catalog number, and it is America to 1865. So hopefully you're at the right place, and we're online, and we're asynchronous, which means we don't have any scheduled meeting times. You'll have an assignment most weeks, but it's a pretty straightforward class. So before we get started, you need to make sure that you purchase the textbook, which is an ebook with a product called MindTap. The publisher is Cengage, and MindTap is their sort of their e-resource package that ties into Blackboard, and you definitely need it to get through this class. If you go to the bookstore, you'll see two different things. You'll see People in a Nation, which is our textbook with MindTap access. That's required. And you'll see another thing called Cengage Unlimited, which is the publisher's subscription product. If you're using another Cengage book in another course at the University of Toledo, then you just buy the unlimited and you can get all of your books just for that one price. So if it makes sense for you to buy the unlimited, fine. If not, all you need for this class is a People in a Nation and MindTap access. So get that, and you have to have that before week 2, which starts next week. So we have that covered. The next thing to cover is how to contact me. So again, my name is Dan French, Dr. Dan, and my phone number is 419-345-7220. That's my cell. You can call me or text me pretty much anytime. Don't call me in the middle of the night. If you text me, make sure you let me know who you are and what class you're in, because I'm teaching a bunch of classes and it just helps me keep it straightened out. So you can call me there. Virtual office hours, of course, so I can do in-person Zoom meetings with you. If you have any questions or you need to meet with me, that's fine. My email address is Daniel, Daniel .French, French, like the language, at universityoftoledo.edu. So that is most of the housekeeping stuff, except for the classes. I talked about the classes straightforward. So as far as assignments, grades, all that stuff goes, you're going to have 8 quizzes. They're 50 points each. They're super easy, and I'll talk to you about them. And you're going to have 3 essays, and they're 200 points apiece, and they're super short, like usually a paragraph or 2. So nothing too terribly challenging, and I give you a whole bunch of direction on what you need to know for a quiz or what you need to do in an essay. So when you go through the reading, you're like, oh my God, do I have to remember all of these names and dates and places? No, don't worry about it. I'd like you to go through and read everything, and I will have a video every week that'll highlight the reading stuff. I'm going to try to call out stuff that I think is relevant to today. And since this is American history, there's a lot, especially when we get to the Constitution. So there's that part. And everybody in the class starts with an A. You have to really kind of screw up bad to get a grade worse than that. Don't be late. If you're going to be late, let me know. If you're chronically late, we can talk. But again, do the work. There's no midterm. There's no final. It's just straightforward. There's 1,000 points in the class, period. That's the way it works. So that's that. Again, if you have any questions about the grading scale, or if you see any problems, mistakes in the syllabus, let me know. But I think that's the way it's laid out, and it should work. And just also, because I'm just looking at the syllabus, you see something in there called learning objectives. So we call them SLOs, student learning outcomes, and you don't have to worry about those. Because the reason they're there, it's what you're supposed to learn from this class in the big picture. And there's a lot to it as well. I mean, sometimes we're like, well, why are we taking history? I'm going to be a nurse, or I'm going to be an engineer, or I'm going to be, in business. If for no other reason, I think that history really teaches you to be very literate as a consumer of information. So you've heard of this term, information literacy. History, hopefully you read something and you're like, well, that says here Columbus discovered, the New World. And he didn't discover anything, but he found the New World or landed on the New World in 1492. Is that true or not? How do I know it? So when you read something online, like some ridiculous claim, the Chinese caused the COVID virus or whatever, you need to ask the question, well, how do I know that's true? So that's one thing history can do for you. And besides that, it's just the stories are fun, and I think everything relates back to today, especially in American history. I want you to take away from this some stuff that will help you be a better informed citizen and a better informed voter, and someone who's like critical. I want you to question everything in this class. So there's that. As far as what we're studying, so again, it's America to 1865. So, why 1865? Obviously, it is the end of the Civil War. I don't need you or want you to remember a lot of dates, but I think it's important that we understand how things are stacked up in history. So the Civil War is at the very end of all the stuff we're studying in the mid 1800s, and so the biggies, prior to that are, of course, Columbus. So 1492, but the book starts out talking about these three old worlds, because there really was the New World, the concept of like discovering America and Columbus. That's really kind of BS, because it was here before Columbus and it was its own world. And when you look at history textbooks and the way we tell the story of how all this happens, the best way to tell it is to say, hey, imagine there were these three worlds at one time. And if you're a little kid and you're drawing something out on the map, you draw these three little worlds and you have imaginary groups on them, and these imaginary groups are they're all different. So, a group over here has certain customs, and a group over there has other customs, and a group over here, looks different, or is a different race, or believes different. And so these ideas of race, ethnicity, religion, all of that stuff, there's these three old worlds, and they come together to form the New World, and that's really where we start American history. Now, who were those old worlds? Well, you probably already know. It's no mystery, but it's the African world, the American world, and the European world. And this is long before communication and long before modern transportation. And if you watched my history primer, I think I pulled out my globe and I said, hey, you got to look at this, because it's the I'm trying to do this. All right, it's the three worlds, and you can see Africa here, and you can see Europe. So again, that's what we're talking about, are our three worlds, and we start with that chapter. And the reason we start there, it only makes sense because the concept of America, the fact that we're so English based, obviously that comes from Europe, and that's where it all starts. But these other cultures, so certainly the African culture plays a major important role in the development of the United States. And unfortunately, the Native American culture does not, because of eventual exploitation and sort of this political persecution, if you will, after the revolution. But we'll get into that. But again, these three worlds. So again, look at your globe. I know you all have a globe handy, but what's in the middle of these three different worlds? It's the Atlantic. So we open the course talking about the three worlds and these very rich, standalone, autonomous civilizations prior to the 1400s. So the Native American cultures, whether it's the Aztecs or the Incas or Cahokia, we read about those, and then we learn about these African cultures, which are very advanced, especially in the Northeast because of the spice trade and because of the Indian Ocean. But the point is that these worlds come together to form this new world. So the New World is a historical creation that happens at some point in the 1400s. And so the first three chapters of the book, Three Old Worlds, Colonialization, and Atlantic America, that's what they're talking about. It's sort of this ebb and flow of people and exploitation and the Columbia Exchange and all of that stuff. So we'll read about that. And then chapter 4 through chapter 7 is, all of the sort of America Revolution type stuff. and it's really a cool story. I mean, I've taught for so many years, and I never really get tired of it because it's really fascinating how America, or the United States of America, really became the United States of America with a unique identity and with a unique attitude and with a unique beginning, which has really kind of screwed us up today in some ways, but at the same time, most of the people around me, especially I'm recording this during the pandemic, boy, the economy's bad. I lost my job. I have the pandemic. I have all of these things going on, and I agree, it's all bad. And I'm very fortunate that I am working at the moment. I truly, I'm truly thankful for that. But that having been said, I don't think it's the end of the country. I think that. With all the political upheaval right now, we just keep on going, and America is an experiment. I believe in it, and I think it's pretty cool how it came together. And I think you'll feel better about the country and what's going on right now when you learn that there were a bunch of people here. We weren't the U.S. yet, and they were like, "Hey, we've had enough of this taxation from England. They don't ever do anything for us, or we've had enough of this." Monopolies on shipping and corporate charters from England and these people bossing us around. And so, they rise up a lot like some of the modern movements we see right now, like a Black Lives Matter movement, only like Colonial Lives Matter movement. And yeah, a lot different. But the point is that there's this groundswell, and eventually we forged this Declaration of Independence saying, hey, we're not going to put up with this stuff anymore. And, we send it to the Parliament, and there's no communication, so it takes, a month or two on a boat. And, eventually the American Revolution happens, and these Enlightenment-inspired ideas about liberty and democracy, and that we should be able to choose who represent us, the brilliance of the Constitution and the downside of the Constitution. We'll talk about all that stuff. And then finally, as the U.S. becomes a nation, so 1787 is the ratification of the Constitution. So that's when the United States officially becomes the United States of America. And so after that, then we're going to fight with this whole idea of race and slavery for this period of time between 1787 and 1860, when Lincoln gets elected and the South says, hey, no way, we're done with this, because we're a slave culture in the South, we're not a slave culture in the North. And we end up as a country sorting this out from 1787 to 1860 when Lincoln's elected. But a lot of stuff that happens in between there. So it's not just sort of like waiting for the Civil War to go, but it's also kind of working out markets and working out infrastructure, and having these debates about how much government involvement there should be in private enterprise and that sort of thing. So I'm sorry I'm taking so long, but I just wanted to explain there's a whole bunch of stuff, but you need to get the book. And next week we're getting right into chapter 1, which is 3 old worlds, which you'll remember are Europe, Africa, and America. That's what we'll do. And if you have any questions, again, 419-345-7220 is my number. And look at the syllabus, look it over, make sure you're ready for class. It's going to be a good ride. Have a great day. Be safe. Bye-bye. Take care.